I love If you jump in muddy puddles, you must wear your boots.
Hey, what's good, everybody? I wanted to make this video. Tomorrow would have been my brother's 48th birthday. Um, he passed just, a few months shy of his 44th birthday, right? So he was 43 at the time. Tomorrow he would have been 48. I wanted to talk about, a thing that happened, right? Very, obviously spiritual, cosmic situation that happened. Um, it's funny. I guess I had made a video about it, but you could tell I was all over the place. I was still even not as comfortable speaking about these extra spiritual experiences. Even though I was already used to talking about some spiritual things, I wasn't ready to talk about like the whole other stuff, right? But I actually just finished a new book that I won't talk about in this video because I'm gonna make another video talking about it. But I did my other book, the 216 book, which all started with my brother, and I even talk about a little bit about this story that I'm gonna share. And then this was just a few months ago, and it's at like 20 something sales, so I'm happy. It kind of helped me get even more comfortable with talking about these experiences, and even this book that I just wrote kind of took it to a whole nother level about me sharing my experiences. So I got no choice but to be comfortable with it now, right? So I wanted to share about this experience. So, you know, um, since tomorrow is his would have been his 48th birthday, right? So after he passed, one of my ways to obviously express myself was music. Eventually, I guess about a little over 2 years, maybe close to 2.5 years after he passed, I ended up making this instrumental, right? This instrumental called Muddy Puddles, right? And the crazy thing about it was that, I knew it was something special. I started working on it. I don't know what got into me. Uh, I know, I don't know, maybe it was in November, October, I don't know what happened, right? But, you know, something got into me. I made this, I was probably thinking about him. I made this instrumental. And, I could tell it was something special, right? It really got me for some reason, right? And, I was working on it, and then I ended up falling asleep watching that show Friends, right? And the TV was on. So when I woke up, the first thing that popped in my head was an instrumental, right? Like I really like it was something special. So I wanted to keep working on it. And so I go, I start messing with it. And the TV was still on, right? I didn't even like that's how much I just wanted to keep working on this, that I woke up and I went straight to it. And the TV was still on. And in the background was a cartoon. It was like this cartoon called Peppa Pig, right? Or something like that. And so I'm messing with this instrumental, and all of a sudden the words from the show, that episode started they just went perfect with the music, right? And it was a scene where the little brother, he was gonna jump, they're playing in muddy puddles, right? I guess because they're pigs, little pigs, so they're like messing in muddy puddles, right? Splashing around. So there's one where the little brother, he's gonna go jump in this muddy puddle, but the big sister snatches him out of the air, right? And she's like, no, wait. And I think, she had the little British accent or whatever. She's like, I must see if it's safe for you first, or something like that. And so she snatches him out of the air. And I don't know, there's a scene where like the little kid, he's crying, something. I don't know if he had jumped in another muddy puddle or something, but he's all crying. And all that happens, and I guess it just takes me to my brother instantly, and I just freaking, I guess as that kid's crying on TV, the waterworks start coming out, and even that hits, like the fact that she's like, wait, I have to see if it's safe for you first, and it made me think about my brother going because he had to see if it was safe first. You know what I mean? And I would have always thought, 1,000,000% that I would have gone before him, right? So it was that. It was like the in this case the older sister, but the older sibling, right, looking out for the little one, right, like wait, like I have to make sure it's safe first, kind of thing, right? So all that stuff, boom, 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 it just hit me all at once, and the fact, um, and then here's the biggest part, right? The fact that it was Muddy Puddles, right? It was like, and I talked about this in the 216 book and everything about this vision, right? Before he passed, like 9 months before he passed, I had a vision where, it was a premonition where it was like I was outside, right? And I was crying. And, I even woke up like that. Never in my life had I woke at that point, woken up from a dream where my whole face was covered in tears. And I had that distorted look on my face that you make when you cry. And my brother was the only one there, right? And I thought like half the world had died or something, so I was like, I was always in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, here comes like the big thing that people are waiting for. Something's gonna happen in the earth, right? And so, it was like then I remember stepping like, it was all muddy, like muddy puddles, right? There was all this mud, but my brother's the only one there, and I turned so he won't see me crying. And then in real life, after like the same week after he passed, I went out to the hills, to be alone, off trail. And I went to this hill where I would go to pray. And as I'm stepping there crying, in this on the hills, I look down and I realize I'm stepping in mud, just like in the dream, right? Crying, just like in the dream, in muddy puddles, right? So I was like, wow. So when I heard that, everything like synchronized, right? The fact that that episode was playing, I wouldn't have even put this cartoon. Just I fell asleep watching Friends. The cartoon was on when I woke up, and I'm making this music and everything in line. Boom, 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 boom. Like the fact that there was that cartoon and they're kind of going through something similar than what I went through and everything. I just realized how it was all written perfectly, right? And then boom. And so as I went through this whole experience with the muddy puddles, and almost like, this music was made perfectly to go together with this cartoon, this scene of this sibling love, right? Um, I let it go, right? I just like, I was so emotionally connected to this that I had this crazy experience, right? As I'm finishing the beat and I'm just flowing with tears, working on this music, crying because I loved my brother so much and still do, right? I love my brother so much, but at that moment, right, just the pureness of the love, it was almost like if this vibration shot out of me, right? Like I connected to beings across universes, galaxies, planets. Like in that moment, I was so pure, right? Like, just like how Jesus said, like, oh, you can't unless you're like as a child. There was no pure essence that I had then at that moment, right? Even so, like one thing I never share is that from a physical standpoint, there probably was no reason that I should have loved my brother the way that I did, right? Like when I was little, like, there was a few times that he hit me like he was trying to kill me, right? Like physically, there's no reason why. Like I remember even when I talked about my car accident, right? When I was in high school, 16 years old. I don't know, maybe I thought I was gonna die, right? And I remember my brother was deployed. And I remember at the hospital, I could barely move. And I remember just asking for my brother, like to tell him. I just wanted them to tell him, what had happened, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I was expecting, oh, maybe they would send him back from Iraq or whatever, but there was this connection, right? No matter all what he had tortured me, there was this unconditional love, right? So okay. You know what? Tomorrow is his birthday, so I have a right to, I guess, be choked up, right? But anyways, so when I was making this, it was like this love that transcended everything, right? So it was almost like I don't know if you ever seen that movie X-Men when Professor X is like connecting, like searching, right? Not they can't see him, but he's seeing all like where all the mutants are and all this stuff, right? But in this case, it was like all of a sudden simultaneously started connecting to all these beings around the universe, right? Or galaxies, whatever. And it was like they could see me, right? And it was like maybe they were equivalent to like the shamans or like higher beings, but even like the spiritual ones of whatever galaxies I was tuning, and I could see their faces and they could see me in that moment. And it was like hundreds, right? I just started connecting with all of them. Like if I was, almost like how you would drop a little pebble into the water and it just ripples out, right? Because I was making this music and the love that was, I guess, emitting from my person or soul was just radiating out like oof, oof, sending out the signal. And somehow I was like, boom, like I was just this nothing but light, even in this existence, like, and I just started connect, and they were all like smiling at me, like if I had figured it out, right? Like that was the key to everything, right? And you've heard so many people say when they talk about, oh, love is the answer, but literally it was like at that moment I was the embodiment of that love, right? And I could just see their faces, like boom, I went to one, and then another with my mind's eye, right? It was like boom, I connected them, boom, across all these different, planets, dimensions, universes, all at the same time, right? And they smiled back at me, and it lasted a while because I was just seeing so many, and they obviously weren't human, right? There was so many various different looking ones, like just different types that I've seen, and now I've seen different people where they talk about these different beings, So I was just going through boom, boom, connecting with all, like that was the answer, like boom, like that was the final, like maybe some don't like, you hear people talk about it until they have like NDEs, right? Where on the other side they felt this unconditional love and they don't want to come back, So to feel that in this experience without having to die or be on the sub any under any substance, right? Just that, like the maybe trance I went into making this music, right? Even though I was still very aware, very conscious of what was going on, right? So that was the strange experience, right? And that moment, and then it was weird. It was like minute. I mean, this lasted a while, right? Somehow I was plugged into all these things, and I was just like, they were so happy to see me at that place, right? Because I was there somehow, right? Like I said, I've heard people talk about in their NDs or even just having strange experiences where all of a sudden they're traveling, they traveled to another planet or did this or that, but it was like I didn't even have to travel. It was like boom, I was there, like in all this, not just the world wide web, but the whole, what we are, that we really are all connected. Like it's just there, right? But I was intimately connected one by one, boom, 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 boom. Like we were connecting one by one, like with some kind of acknowledgement, right? I hope that makes sense, but even it was crazy because after I made that instrumental, I was trying to play it for her because I felt like, oh, maybe this is this magic, but I don't know, maybe it was just meant for me, right? Because other people didn't react to it the way I did. Maybe it was just the process of making it, right? And it was crazy because some of these tones inside this instrumental, I realized after didn't even make sense. Like someone that's I've talked about working with certain producers that, they would want to crack their head on the wall because I was trying to make music from an just feeling, and they were more technical. Like, no, this note doesn't go with this note. So it was funny. I even noticed after that there were some notes that didn't really, but somehow it didn't matter. Harmonically, things just came together. So everything about that whole experience, right? But so just that, right? Like to say that I explained. It was funny because I did explain that in the old video I had made about how it's all vibrations, right? Like that's why that the vibration, I guess, that was sent out at that moment was so pure. That's why it didn't, like, that's the language. Because if there was gonna be a language to talk to other beings, and we're so stuck with our human languages, that's what it is, right? Everything has a vibration. A rock has a vibration. A tree has a vibration. We humans have vibrations. Everything has music. I think scientifically they already proved that every single cell has its own music playing, right? So in that act of sending out the signal, like the message was received. And suddenly, after I don't know, probably like 10 minutes in the situation that I was in, of letting it just be, right? All of a sudden my human mind crept back in and I was like, what if I just gave like our location of this earth to all these, maybe some bad being just saw where we were or something. And then after, so I think I disconnected from that state I was in, right? And then I didn't get it back after that. But it was dumb because obviously these beings, it was the love, right, that connected me to them. It had nothing to do with, oh, they were trying to do anything bad or anything like that. It was the love that connected us, right? So that was one of I wrote about it in the book I just finished because, I know people are always wondering about life, in other whatever dimensions or planets or this and that, and that's the answer. But it wasn't that. It's not like someone saying, like, like the other day, right? I was driving and of course someone cuts you off and you like cuss them out and then you're like, okay, like that wasn't good. I have to change it. So it wasn't something like that where you have to force yourself to no, 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 I love and light or something like that. It was like it was just pure, right? There's a pureness to it, and it's sad. Maybe it's sad that it had to be like that. Um, of course I've experienced this even like in visions and stuff. Like I said, when I connected with these higher beings and saying I never felt a love like that. But I guess, this was even as close as that, if not more, right? There was something about that experience that just, in that moment I had transcended beyond, right? So I just wanted to share that with you guys since tomorrow's the birthday, right? And my brother's birthday, or would have been my brother's birthday. And you know, yeah, it was a special experience. I got new interviews coming up. I actually am gonna do an interview tomorrow on, what would have been my brother's birthday. Then I have another interview coming up. And I'm gonna make another video I know of right now. So yeah, if you haven't checked out the book, like I said, you know, I don't believe I even mentioned this experience in the book, which I should have because it was all connected, right? If you haven't read it, go, I have it as an audio book now, everything, in Spanish, the 216 book. Only because I would like people to read that book before I come out with the new book, right? Because the new book is gonna go just into everything, right? It's gonna go into pretty much uh like all the experiences I've had, including the one I just mentioned, right? So I said I was gonna talk about it, I think, in the other video I'm gonna make, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for sticking with me. It's nice to see the channel continually growing, right? Like so hopefully it'll continue growing, and I'll be able to share more of these experiences, not just that I've had, but obviously when I'm interviewing guests and all that. So thanks again. You know, special thanks to my brother that came on this journey with me in this lifetime, and just the special bond that we had, right, and have still, right. So I'm very blessed with that, and the Creator for allowing us to partake in all of these crazy experiences, no matter how humanly painful they are, right. The the beauty in it, right? Like there's always a beauty in it's funny because a long time ago in the song I talked about like the Greek tragedy. I always understood Greek tragedy because they're very funny, but I get it, the beauty and the pain or the whatever. There's always weird stuff, right? In this human experience, but at the end there's a poetic like beauty to it, right? So I ended up there because I know I'm babbling at this point, but I'm sure some of you guys, you know, some of you get it, right? So I'll leave it at that. All right, peace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.